Hey, this is Vu, and today I'm going to be talking about two of the most common mistakes in matchmaking in general, and they're to do with nade usage. The first one is a complete waste of nades, and this is something I see mostly at DMG and below. And the second is a complete misuse of Molotovs in general and a misunderstanding of the way they should be used. And this is something I see at pretty much all levels of matchmaking, including lower tier levels of league play. So the first one, wasting your nades, is something that I see where people recognize that they don't want to be dying with nades in their inventory, and they think that they should be using nades in general. However, they don't realize how they should be using those nades, so they end up kind of just lobbing flashes or nades or smokes or whatnot over into certain areas and getting absolutely nothing done with them. And that means later on in the round, when that enemy team is actually trying to hit towards their bomb site, they end up having no nades left and getting completely overrun just by wasting those nades. And so what I want you guys to do is to actually think every time you use a grenade, whether it's a flash, smoke, nade, whatever, always have a clear reason behind it. And now I'll go over a little bit later in the video after the Molotov part the reasons you should be using your nades. However, you should always think to yourself, why did I use that nade and what did I get done, and was it a good nade to use in general? And that way, as it gets later into the round when you really need your nades, you might still have them left. Now the second bit is actually about Molotovs, and I see this complete misunderstanding of how they should be used. I see people very often using Molotovs with like a minute left just because a team has control of a certain area. For example, the enemy team might have control of catwalk here, so someone on platform will use their Molotov with 50 or 60 seconds left on the clock when not pressured at all. Now on the CT side, generally you want to be using your Molotovs only when the time has ticked below about 30 seconds or if the enemy team is actually executing. And that means that if their team has cat control and they're beginning to throw smokes, Molotovs, flashes, whatever over, you can throw a Molotov to delay their execute and allow your team to rotate in and collapse on them, where they either have to wait behind that Molotov or take a ton of damage from the Molotov. And of course, you can also use this when the time is ticked below about 30 seconds, because 8 seconds when there's 25, 30 seconds left is actually fairly significant in terms of executing on a bomb site, whereas with a minute left, 8 seconds is pretty much meaningless, especially if they're not trying to currently execute. So those are two of the main ways you can use it on CT side, and there's actually two ways you can use it when their team is executing. You can use it to delay their push if they're all 5 coming up catwalk, so your team can collapse on them. Or you can actually use it to block off one side of the push and you can focus on the other. And this is actually one of the reasons that running through Molotovs is sometimes extremely effective. Because if you can imagine you're on CT side here and the enemy team is splitting 3 up long and 2 towards catwalk, you can kind of throw a Molotov at cat and then focus on long for a good 7-8 seconds and then turn around and focus on cat again and try and shut down 2 pushes individually rather than get collapsed on by 2 separate pushes from both sides. Now, as for the actual uses of every nade, I would say flashes are extremely effective at either pushing an enemy off of an area or allowing your teammates to fall back or yourself to fall back, or to actually clear out an angle. So for example, you could have a player sitting on the corner right here, and you could throw a flash around the corner like that, and then your teammate could come around the corner and quickly clear this out with a flashbang. Very good use there. You can also use it to force an enemy to reposition, and this is kind of a T-side usage, where you can throw a flash kind of over a corner like this, and then post up on an angle and wait for them to re-peek. So they're either forced to reposition into a weaker angle, or most likely a weaker angle, or re-peek into you when you can be holding that angle. Now, smokes can be used to delay people, like at early round, especially if you can get an advantage positionally by using that smoke. For example, if you throw a smoke at B tunnels, you can pretty safely get up onto this box, whereas without that smoke, you can't. And nades are mostly used for damage. Smokes can also be used in the same way as Molotovs, where you can throw it down to try and focus on a different spot instead of having to watch a certain angle. Again, this is one of the reasons that pushing through smokes is sometimes effective. And Molotovs can be used for the reasons previously mentioned, Or they can also be used to actually clear out someone from an angle, similar in a way that flashes can be used. So you can actually use it to kind of push someone off of platform there if you know they're there, especially during an execute. Or you can use it to kind of push someone off a platform and force them into your angle, and you can get the free kill. So of course, these are the ways that I would recommend nades be used, and if you're using a nade that doesn't get any of these things accomplished, you should probably rethink using it. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped.